Welcome to my program, Bashy's Corner. Denmark loves its reputation for being a democratic society and happiest people on this planet. It also likes to point out that in Denmark, individual liberty and freedom of expression are supreme, and nobody should question these qualities and principles. But there's another side of this glittering coin. These fantastic principles are trampled upon establishment, politician, and media, and every time somebody challenges them, then that person feels the brunt of the establishment. My guest today is one such brave citizen who bore the brunt of official Denmark. He lost almost everything: his friends, his job, his relationship with his father, and everything he thought was precious. But he held on to his principles and the values and principles he cherished. Welcome to my program, Koustrup Kærgaard.
Thank you very much.
It's an honor to interview you and to see you in person.
I'm very glad to be here in your studio.
Thank you. Since your interview on the Danish television, you have been called a whistleblower, a traitor, an enemy of the state, and many other things in between. What did you say that had this reaction?
Well, the thing is that I was stationed in Iraq in 2004, and we were conducting an operation against supposed Iraqi insurgents. But it turned out that it was civilians without any connection to any hostile groupings. Okay. And what happened was that they were beaten badly by the Iraqi security forces. And the Danish soldiers, myself amongst them.
You were part of that Danish contingent?
Yeah, I was part of the Danish contingent. I was part of the operation. We didn't stop it, and we didn't follow up on it afterwards. And in 2012, the Danish government denied any knowledge about this incident. Okay. And said that whatever these Iraqis were saying was a lie, and I knew it wasn't a lie. So I first of all, I tried to raise the concerns within the military system to tell them that the answers given by the Ministry of Defense are not correct, but there were no listeners, and eventually I had to go public with my knowledge in order to safeguard the rights of the Iraqi civilians.
So, but then the question is that before you went on television, you must have been thinking, what could of reaction it could be. Did you ponder the situation?
Yeah, very much. When I was in Iraq, a famous Danish whistleblower, Frank Grevil, who used to be an intelligence officer in the Danish intelligence establishment, he went forward saying that the government was lying when they told that they knew that there were weapons of mass destruction. And I followed his course, and I saw what he was being subjected to. Okay. So I was very, very aware of the reactions that I might most likely be getting. And it was scary as hell, because I knew that I would probably lose everything I had, and I would probably end up by being isolated without of the establishment of which I had been a part of for a long time.
We'll talk about that in detail, but before we go further, I want to ask you a little bit about yourself, your life, before all the hell broke loose. Why did you join the army?
Well, it was a natural thing for me to do, because when I grew up, I lived with my grandfather, and my grandfather used to be a resistance fighter in the Danish resistance movement. Okay. He was a communist, and he was telling me when I was a little boy about the good and the bad, and how to choose the good. And I thought that the Danish army was the good. I think it still is. It still is the good thing.
Army as an institution.
Yeah. And I wanted to be part of it. I wanted to do my share and to be a part and be proud to be a Danish soldier.
But I understand that your dad is also in the army.
Yeah, my dad is also in the army. We were in the same regiment. He's still in the regiment. I'm not.
In the same regiment?
Yeah, we were in the same regiment.
Okay. So you are what you call military family man.
Yeah, my family has fought on Dybbøl Banke in 1864 when we lost to the Germans, and we can trace our lineage back to that battle. So we have a proud tradition of losing wars.
But trying to defend Denmark.
Trying to defend Denmark, yeah.
Okay. Now, I understand that you considered your dad before this break as your hero. Why?
Well, he wasn't really part of my life. My mom and dad got separated.
Okay.
And my circumstances were a bit chaotic when I was a child.
So he was 7 years old.
Second?
You were 7 years old.
Yeah, when I was 7, until I was 7, I saw him once a month or something like that.
Because he was in the military, moving around.
Yeah, he was in another part of the country.
Okay.
And he was. I was regarding him as the one who might come and save me for whatever things I was going through with my mother.
So he was a hero.
He was a hero, definitely was a hero. And he was a soldier, and my father told me that soldiers are heroes.
So that was when at 7 years old when you were given away, or was it tough emotionally?
Yeah, I think it took me a very long time to realize that I was not going to see my father again for many years.
Okay.
And I think I still wonder how he could do it. How could he let one of his kids go? I have 2 children myself, 2 boys, and I could never let them go to anyone. I just don't understand it, and I still don't understand it. Did
you blame yourself?
Yeah, of course I did, because I thought there was something wrong with me since I was being the one who was sent away.
But then you were reunited with him when you were 20 years old. And, you know, it's a long distance in between. You had a kind of a complicated relationship with your dad. Why?
Well, I still thought that he might be the one to save me. And I was still looking forward. I think my perception of him hasn't changed from when I was 7 and until I was 20. It wasn't very nuanced. It was just very black and white. And he wasn't prepared to be my father when we met at 20. I thought that he was going to be my father, but he wasn't prepared to do that. Okay. So I had to readjust my expectations to him again.
Okay. Let's come back to your military career. The Danish army sent you to Iraq. What kind of mission was that?
Well, we were to create safety and facilitate the rebuilding of Iraq. In 2004, when I was down there, it was just a year after the American-led invasion. And everything was actually, we were hoping things were going to be calm and peaceful, and what we had to do was kind of monitoring and policing operations prior to the Iraqi new security forces were able to take over. Place, yeah. But instead we found ourselves in the middle of a civil war. And one thing that everybody could agree was that we were, as the coalition, was some of the bad guys.
But when Iraq was liberated, we saw the pictures of Iraqis tearing down Saddam's statues and considered liberators, you know. Did you feel that when you came there that different people still thought that you were a liberator?
Yeah, I think we were, and I think a lot of people had high hopes for us because we kept saying we were to do something different from when Saddam was in place. But as my tour grew on and the time was spent down, I realized, and the Iraqis realized, that we say one thing, but we do something else. We do not insist on an impartial courts. We do not insist on not taking and arresting innocent people. We were doing whatever we thought was necessary without really paying too much attention to the legal system.
When you were sent to Iraq, to a country you had never been before, were you prepared? The Danish, army, did they prepare you?
Yeah, I think they did. We had some very good cultural awareness lessons, and we were also prepared to talk a little bit Arabic. But I think we were well prepared for the cultural clash. We were less prepared for the civil war, which we suddenly found ourselves in.
So you found between the two hard rocks.
Yeah, I think so. So. Yeah.
So then in 2004, I understand, you were near Basra. and they were Iraqi prisoners of war being mistreated by the Iraqi security forces. What did you do then?
Well, I was my place was to prepare. My task was to prepare the operation and to validate the intelligence which were presented to us. And I stated that the intelligence is not viable. I don't trust it. But my commanding officer decided anyhow that we need to do this operation because it's a good training exercise for the local Iraqi security forces.
So he didn't listen to you?
No, he didn't listen. He wanted something else, and that's fair enough because in a staff I can raise my concerns, and if the commanding officer says otherwise, then I will just go on a new track.
Yeah. So what were the instructions of the military command or the commander in such circumstances?
Well, in 2004 we were post the Abu Ghraib scandal. And the team before us, Team 3, had an officer sent home for mistreating detainees. So we were very, very afraid of handling detainees. So the main instruction was not to get involved in arresting and detaining anybody, and let that task be done universally by the Iraqi security forces.
Honest, that reminds me of the Bosnian situation, where Dutch officers were supposed to protect the Bosnian, and they looked the other way, and then you know what happened. You know, thousands of people were killed. You know, didn't it occur to you that it could happen that Danish military not intervening could end up, that prisoner could end up being mistreated?
I would say that I did realize it, but I think I realized it too late, because one of our main concern was not to be part of this bad press regarding Abu Ghraib and stuff like that, because we thought that we were doing a very good job in Iraq in safeguarding some peace at least. But we lost the bigger perspective. We actually lost our main goal and our main effort in Iraq, which was to safeguard new Iraq based on civil rights, and we lost that perspective.
And you say that you did inform your commander about this beating and torture of the prisoner, and he just said, look the other way.
Well, what he said was that if I would realize what that would mean, and I knew exactly what he said and what he meant, because a lot of the coalition forces were pulling out of Iraq during that time. So we were quite clear upon that if we were to have a scandalous case, we might also very likely be pulled out of.
But then the Iraqis did take the case up, those prisoners, and there was a kind of a court case where Denmark did get involved, didn't they?
Well, what happened was that a few days after the operation, local Iraqi media reported these incidents and told a story about how we were passive. They didn't accuse us of being responsible, but they accused us of being passive and just accepting it. And that claim was absolutely valid. And instead of saying we are sorry, we would like to make amends and we would like to do something else, the whole campaign of lies started, and we started to miscredit the Iraqi local media and stuff like that.
So when did Danish government charge you?
Well, in 2012,
okay.
I came forward because I could see that the Iraqis have raised a claim at the Danish court in Denmark, and I volunteered as a witness for them because I knew that what I saw could be vital to their case. And when I was talking to the army, they really didn't listen to what I had to say. They were only interested in two things. They were interested in if I had a career and if I still had a connection to the army, because then I could be prosecuted for leaking classified information. Yeah. And as I didn't do that, then the second question was, is there anything you don't want to answer? And of course there was one thing I didn't want to answer, and that is who gave me the tape with the atrocities. Okay. And that is exactly what they took me to court for
so not what did court do? What was the court decision?
Well, the court decision was that I had to deliver the tape, because without the tape, nothing could be prosecuted, which was ridiculous, because it didn't really have any bearing on the case. What was interesting was what we could see on the case, on the tape, and what we could see in the documents that were prepared by the Danish government and the army headquarters. So instead of focusing on the relevant thing. They were very, very good at derailing the whole discussion and put the focus on me instead of the evidence.
But Anas, when people join the army like you did, you take an oath of loyalty. So isn't Danish government a military right that you broke that code of loyalty?
Sure, I very much broke that code, and especially since I'm being an officer. We have an officer's code that means that we are to have each other's back, both in firefights and in everything else. And I've also myself benefited from somebody being friendly enough to keep me out of trouble when I had done something wrong. But this case was so unique for me because it was 23 totally innocent civilians who had their life completely destroyed.
Okay. So what happened after the trial? Family, friends, your dad? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I can do it very shortly. I lost everything. Okay. All most of my friends, at least, disappeared from my Facebook, and I've managed to regain contact to a few. But there's also a lot of people which I don't have any contact with anymore. And
how was the public reaction?
Well, I think it was biased. It was split in two. It was half where he's a traitor, he's illoyal, disloyal to his comrades, and the other half was, well, he might have a point there, actually. So let's focus on his points. But the media was very, very willing to focus on the personal issues rather than the case and the issues of this case. And I found that very frustrating.
Did you get any support from, for example, progressive forces in Denmark, Institute for Human Rights, and there are some political parties who are also?
Yeah, very, very much. I was afraid that I was going to fight this battle on my own, but I soon realized that both the Amnesty International, Dignity, Institute of Human Rights were all in my corner and would like to support my claims, which felt very, very good. And that is the new fundament which I built my life on. This is the new community which I have found myself in.
I remember when your name came up in this list. I'm in the board of Human Rights Institute, and honestly, I didn't know what to do or who it was. And then I looked at your what you did, and I thought, everybody was unanimous that this is the man who should get this prize for courage. It seems that, and what about the reaction in outside Denmark? Did you get some support also?
Yeah, but it was very sporadic. It's from single individuals, different places. I had a guy from Germany writing me, a guy from Norway, a few from Sweden. But the whole case has been very, very quiet. Although it's a very principal case which are raised in this incident. But there hasn't been very much international interest in the case. Yeah. But it might come still because the proceedings is still going on, and the court case is still waiting to happen. So there might be.
Can you tell us a little what will happen now?
Well, what will happen is that the High Court is to find out, to decide whether this case has reached its time limit, or whether it is still valid to go in front of the court.
So you have appealed to High Court.
No, I have not appealed to High Court, but the Iraqis has.
Oh, Iraqis have.
Yeah,
so you are involved with that case.
Yeah, I'll probably be a witness in that case.
Okay. It seems that the negative effects of your action, of you going public, has been much greater than the benefits. So any regrets?
Well, if you measure success in how big your car is, or if you still own your own house, then the cost has been very, very high. But I value my principles higher, and I lost my honesty. I lost it in Iraq when I choose to not speak up, and for me it's very important to regain it. And that brings me back to my grandfather, because I tried to be honest in accordance with his values. Yes. And I knew that when I was in Iraq, I wasn't in accordance.
He will be very proud of you.
I'm not sure he would be very proud, but I'm sure I'm very proud of him, and yes. I try to do my best to do the right thing.
So now you are a founder of and vice chair of NGO called Veron. What does it do?
Well, we are the first and biggest whistleblower organization in Denmark.
So it's called Whistleblower.
Yeah, right. We do two things. We work on the political level in order to safeguard whistleblower rights and make sure that we have freedom of speech. And we work in very directly with individual cases where we supply legal advice, psychological help, and economic funding and stuff like that to the individual whistleblower.
So there has been also other cases in Denmark of people who came out.
Yeah, and what we try to do is that we try to let the case and speak itself and take the whistleblower out of the equation, so that the whistleblower doesn't have to take the brunt of the establishment answer, but that the case can talk for itself. And that is what we are trying to.
But you know that the word whistleblower is not looked at positively in society.
I know.
So couldn't you find some other word?
Yeah, I've tried in the beginning.
Freedom fighter.
in the beginning, I tried to find another word for it, because I would say every time I got interviewed that I'm a witness and not a whistleblower. Yeah. But what it is actually a whistleblower. So what we are trying to do, and what I try to do, is to redefine the meaning of whistleblower into something positive. And I think that trend is a global one, and I think it is going to succeed at one point.
Then, besides your organization and yourself, are there other people who are safeguarding the rights of whistleblowers, if we have to say that?
Yeah, absolutely. We have several. We have Transparency International, which works against corruption, and we have a close cooperation with Amnesty International, who also works for safeguarding whistleblower rights. And then, of course, we have a close cooperation with three political parties in Denmark: the Alternative, Enhedslisten, and the SF, where we are trying to work on legislation to safeguard whistleblowers.
And they're supporting you openly?
Yes, they are.
Okay. Any job offers from any think tank? Because, when you are speaking engagement for you?
Well, I was prepared when I saw what happened to Frank Greville, that job offers might be non-existent, and since 2012 I haven't had any serious job offers. And that is very much a common fate of whistleblowers, that once they have been employed, typically as medium or senior officials, they end up without any possibilities for a job, and so also in this case.
Okay. So if I ask you a personal question, is your life now getting back to normal again after all what you went through in this so many years?
I think I will have to say it's a new normal, because I can't compare my life with what I had before 2012. It is completely changed, and I think the journey has been a good one for me, because I've learned a lot about myself, and I learned a lot about my principle. But I'm trying to rebuild a new life, I would say.
Anas, I know that you are not a politician, but I will ask you, that Denmark used to be a very peaceful country. They never took part in any wars, especially outside their own borders. But now, since 9/11, we have been in every war imaginable, from Afghanistan to Libya to Syria, and now we are sending troops. And they have just today, actually, the parliament have passed this resolution that the F-16 and the commandos can go. Hasn't Denmark learned anything?
Nothing. I would say that after losing 2 wars in a row in Iraq and in Afghanistan, the politicians mainly are not interested in getting a realistic picture of what we can do as a nation. And during the Cold War, Denmark was facilitating dialogue and trying to insist on United Nations peace building. But since 9/11, we have chosen to be a part of the American-led coalition, and we have abandoned the United Nations a bit. And there are no willingness to return to that position. It seems to me that it's become a reflex to every answer to a conflict is to send military, either a battleship or a jet fighters or commandos.
But we are a small country with a very little army. Should we flex these muscles of being a big power? We are not.
well, we have no muscles to flex, so it would be foolishly to think we are doing so. And I think a lot of this has to do with the politicians really not knowing what else to do. But there are very, very viable alternatives, and we should, in my opinion, return to the United Nations track, because these conflicts that we are being part of needs the long haul. We cannot solve these problems in conflicts within a 10-year time frame. It might take 20 or 30. If you look at Bosnia, they're still ongoing with the peace process, and it's the United Nations that are bearing the brunt.
Another question which I am often confronted by people, especially those who are coming from other countries, they say that why Danish politicians and decision makers don't understand that when you go and attack outside another country, then there will be reaction. So you cannot sit home and say nothing will happen, you know. No,
it's very naive, and I think it's partly because a lot of our politicians have lost their history. They haven't really grasped the context of history in this. They think that they can bomb. For now, it's ISIS, and that will bring everything to a standstill, which is not the case. Which we tried in Iraq, which we tried in Afghanistan, and the only thing that we succeeded in Afghanistan was to strengthen Taliban, because they are now even more powerful than they have been for many years. And in Iraq, we got a completely different country to what our main objective was. We wanted to make a peaceful, democratic, liberal Iraq, and we've got a total mess on our hands. But the politicians lack the will to see these facts and to accept them. So in the end, I would like to ask you that many people are worried about these developments, and then the increase in far-right movement, racism, Islamophobia, extremism. What is your worry? Well, my worry is that we will give in to these fears, that we will become a country governed by fear. And I think we are very, very strongly on that path, because most of our politicians are angling for the right-wing voters. So we see liberal parties like SF trying to take on the agenda of part of the Danish Populist Party. And that's a big shame, and it's totally unnecessary, I think. Thank you very much for a lovely conversation, and thank you to my viewers for watching this program. And I hope that what Anders have said you will remember when you're going to vote for a political party next time. Until next time, take good care of yourself.